Circle Time Magazine is a professional development talk show for early childhood educators. This show gives real-world examples of teaching and learning in a variety of early childhood education settings. Ideas for using appropriate and accessible materials. Every episode has tips and methods for you to try out too.
Hi, and welcome to Circle Time Magazine. I'm one of your hosts, Dawn Williams.
I'm Kristen Ainsley, and we are happy that you're here with us today for a Circle Time of our own. So this whole entire season, we have been talking about inclusion, and today we're going to really dig deep into how teachers can support children with creating really positive social interactions in the classroom.
And especially when it comes to children with disabilities, we want those environments to be strengths-based, celebratory of children's identities, inclusive and caring environments where everyone feels welcome and supportive in the way that they come into the room.
Right, exactly. We want the environment to be an environment of can do rather than can't.
Absolutely.
Right? We want the mindset, we want to help you with your mindset, all of our mindsets, and getting our children included in all of the activities and to help build friendships.
So our learning objectives for today are to learn why social inclusion is so important and all the benefits of that, the why behind that,
right,
and also some strategies for how you can start doing that in your early learning environments. And big key, it's about planning.
It's very much about planning.
So this is how we're going to do that today. First, we'll hear from parents and educators in the field. Next, Gail joins us remotely to give us 10 tips for building friendships. Then we'll hear about Snack Talk with Dr. Ariane Gouvreau. Then teacher Taylor Johnson gives us a Circle Time tip, and then there's a special book segment with parent Rocio Cruz Cervantes. We'll wrap up with Gail joining us for It's All About You. Of the season, we've had the pleasure of interviewing many parents, teachers, and even some kids about inclusive settings. And so in this next video, we're going to be talking with a parent who talks about the benefits of including children with and without disabilities.
Well, I think the style that EU has is have kids with certain challenges, or what you would call IPs, and the other half is typical, whatever that means, but typical kids. So for me as a parent to know that I am around other parents that I can relate to, it feels right. It feels like balance. And for me, or for us as parents to see Sol to attend to a classroom where she is with this mix, it feels balanced, because we don't want her to be separate or be with a bunch of, we don't want her to be in a specific place with kids that just have Down syndrome, for example. And because I always have said that just have kids with certain diagnoses together is just too much goal. It's pure goal. And that, even when you have a ring, I mean, you have to polish it, and the goal has to have this form, and in order to have its purpose, which is be beautiful and bright and make people feel good or whatever. I think that's what I go for, and we go for. Like, there is so much that each kid can offer, that if you put them separate, because if you classify them because a diagnosis or whatever, I'm sure that some of those intentions might be good. It might be like, in this way we can work better for these specific kids. At the same time, I think you are teaching more separation, and we don't need that right now, especially right now. So seeing Sol in a classroom where she is equally treated, it makes me feel that that's what should be happening, and that's what will need, and she will beneficiate too, because everybody learns from other people. So she has those models too. And other people have her model too. So I think every child is bringing something for you to learn, and in a way, as a group, it becomes more rich.
So I love that clip of Rocio talking, and I love how she uses the word balance in terms of balance in their life as a family, with her daughter included in this inclusive preschool program, and also her able to connect with other parents who are maybe going through the same things that they're going through. Just that word balance, I just love that.
Yeah, I mean, that's such a good perspective on it, right? And that she's got peers in the inclusive learning setting, but also Soul is a peer model for children.
Yeah.
And it's just a beautiful, I loved it when she said that you're recognized for your strengths.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a beautiful way of being in an early learning environment.
Exactly. And just as, children, parents of children without disabilities often want their children in inclusive settings, she really wants her daughter in an inclusive setting, not necessarily just for, because she has special needs, but because she wants her daughter around a whole bunch of diverse learners and just kids, right? She just wants her with kids.
All right, so next, let's listen to Dr. Jen Fung. We saw her in our curriculum modifications episode.
Yep.
She's going to talk about why it was so important for her to have her child enrolled in inclusive developmental preschool.
Okay.
Really at the core, it's the belief and the philosophy of not only the teachers, but everybody who walks through the door and everybody who works in the classrooms in some capacity, whether it's the researchers, trainers, other parents, everybody here really sees kids as kids first, regardless of whether or not a child has a developmental delay or a disability or some sort of other circumstance that's making it difficult for them to participate, difficult for them to make friends, whatever that might be. So really that idea that kids are kids first, and that every kid, regardless of whether they have some sort of diagnosis or label, that every kid gets what they need to learn. That is really important to me. And I feel like that my husband and I both agreed that that is what we wanted our daughter to learn as well. So, it is about difference. Kids notice difference. Everybody is different, and that's what makes us really beautiful and unique and special. But beyond that kind of surface level of appreciation of difference and normalization of difference, but what is it about those differences that help us contribute to our classroom and our community, that those differences are what makes things exciting and what makes life, it's really what it's all about. So that normalization, they're really, I think the proactive and really just kind of frank and factual conversations about difference that people have with kids here. That wasn't always my experience growing up. When kids notice difference, kids make comments, they ask questions, and as adults, I think that often makes us uncomfortable, but kids aren't putting any value on those observations that they make. So just the way that the teachers and the adults in the programs here really appreciate those questions, they value those questions, they welcome those questions, and then they take it a step further. So you noticed that child communicates differently or moves differently or looks differently or likes different things, but let's also talk about what's the same about you, right? And that it's not all about the struggles or the challenges of a certain population of kids, that we all have things that we're working on. We all have things that we're good at. So really, it's that we're more the same than we are different. So I love that feeling kind of underlies everything that happens in the classrooms and the schools here. And that's what we wanted for our daughter.
So I love how Jen talks about having that mindset of inclusion. And it's just what she really loved about being in this inclusive setting and having your daughter in this inclusive setting. One of the reasons was just having those frank, honest conversations with children about differences and about similarities of kids. Kids ask all the time about, children they see, why someone's doing something, and just having that open conversation with kids is what she really loved, which I love.
Yeah, like we should talk about it
Yeah.
and celebrate it, right?
Absolutely.
And I love that idea of that it's refreshing that everybody's working on something.
Yes.
Right?
Absolutely.
There's
Everybody.
commonality between that, and you get to see that in an inclusive setting where you think things might be different, but not in all the ways that you may think.
Yeah, that's true. So next we're going to hear from a parent named Cynthia, and she's going to be talking about her daughter, and she has so much pride in talking about her daughter as a leader in the classroom. So let's watch that.
Well, I know they told me that she knows the routine in the class, and if someone doesn't want to participate, she goes up to them and pulls them to the front so they can participate in when they're singing or when they're doing something like that. And she's gonna be a leader.
I love how excited and proud she was of her daughter.
Yeah, I love
because
it.
she really was the leader in there. She's
Yeah.
the one getting peers' attention.
Yep.
And it's another great way to highlight her strengths
Right.
and let her shine in that way.
Yep.
That was so positive.
It really was.
Yeah, these kids' examples really show what it's like for them to be interacting and what you do, what you can do when the focus is an environment of what kids are capable of and not necessarily what they can't. Like, it is strengths-based for sure.
That's right. All right, so we have talked about why inclusion is so beneficial, and now we're going to talk about how do we get there? How do we do it? We're going to hear from Rocio again. She's one of our parents, and she's going to talk about how intentional the teachers are in her daughter's program and what they do to intentionally foster and model and teach friendship.
In the classroom, I know that she does some kind of parallel play with some kids, but now she tells me, like, for example, just today she was telling me that she wanted to see David and she wants to play with him. And it's just nice for me to know that she can relate to people and be like, I want to play with this or that. Or she tells me about another friend in the classroom, or she tells me what they did, and I know that she's seeing them and playing with them, and that makes me feel good, of course, because that's what she's supposed to be doing too, and she does well. So I know that teachers also get involved by playing, and I think that's a big thing for her. Modeling. Otra vez.
Yeah.
I think it's a huge. I think it's very good for her because they are modeling too, and once you show her how to do things, she will try it and do it, and so I think she's learning how to be with friends, how to relate or talk to people, how to play games and pretend, and it's by seeing them. And one thing that I admire a lot at the classroom or the school is that it's people that really have the intention of providing to your kid the experience, the learning experience. And I think you can see it and feel it. It's like from the heart. So what make me think, like what you said about, like, well, a place, it's not enough just to be inclusive and have them in the classroom. So I think even if you don't have the right tools at the moment, as I said, if you have the intention, I think you can that's the beginning. Because if you have the intention also with your actions of, I mean, it's human actions, like, how can you, like, come on, let's play, and you don't talk much, well, come on, you will be in this group, and you don't have to talk, you can observe, but have these attitudes that will move the kids, and I think that's natural, that you don't have to know much of books or anything. It's just being a person, being a human, and show your values and show your love, especially to kids.
I love hearing this from Rocio because it was really important to her as a parent that her child had some friends.
Yeah, absolutely.
And even just from observing what was happening, she could tell that teachers were teaching kids how to play, how to pretend, how to interact together and build those friendships. And I love that part where she said, you know, you may not know all the things to do, but if you've had the intention and you value it in your heart, you're already on the right path.
That's right. That's right. I love how she talks about that, and just having, again, we keep talking about sort of the intentionality, the mindset around inclusion. That you know, you're using a talker to talk, and you are not walking yet. That's okay. Come on, we're all going to play together. I loved that. That just sums it up. So part of making this work is to truly believe that this can happen, that inclusion is possible. So we're going to have another example here from Teacher Taylor. And we're going to hear what she says about how to make it happen.
At the start of the year, I think all of our students enter with a vision of what they see in front of them. So they might see a student in a wheelchair who uses a talker or a voice output system, so that they see this person and they're not quite sure yet how they're going to play with them. They might have never played with someone who's in a wheelchair before. They might not realize they can get out of the wheelchair and sit on the ground with them and play. And so I think at the start of the year, all the students do have kind of this perception, and specifically our student who joined our classroom last year, who did use a voice output system that had all of these words programmed into it. One of the coolest things that I think we got to do at the start of the year is show her friends how quickly she could find things. And it became kind of a game of, we would have one student and we'd ask her first, but we'd say, hey, can you show us where to find goldfish? And she would get there within 10 seconds. And then we'd have another peer and I'd be like, I wonder, where do you think we would find goldfish? I don't even know where to look. Where do you think we should look first? Maybe food? And then we'd go and we'd get confused and we'd have to start all over. And then getting them to appreciate how skilled she was at using this way of talking and how much faster she was at it than us was one way that we kind of shifted that perspective just off of the first day. And then we continue to go and talk about and highlight the strengths. It's really intentional because you want to show students that just because someone might not speak the same way or just because they might not communicate the same way doesn't mean that they don't have skills that you might not have yet. And it really helps with that growth mindset amongst the whole class. So I think providing these opportunities can be really helpful in helping disintegrate that visual that students have of their peers when they come in at the start of the year. But one step at a time, you're able to kind of break down these stereotypes they might already have because they're 3 and they don't know any better. And so that's kind of the opportunity that you have, is providing these opportunities for students to show their knowledge and to really showcase their strengths so that we can see these kind of building blocks of these stereotypes or of these anticipations of their friends' abilities come down one by one.
This is teacher planning.
Absolutely.
From day one.
Yes, planning.
Everything that the teachers did from that very first day was intentional.
Yep.
It was to highlight strengths.
Yep.
I love that she talked about how it facilitates a growth mindset, and it was really all to disintegrate those stereotypes.
Right. I love that she used that word disintegrate.
Yeah.
The stereotypes that children walk in with. And then immediately she starts breaking those down for them. Yeah.
So powerful.
Thank you, Taylor.
Circle Time Magazine, and thank you, Don and Kristen, for including me in this episode and for asking me to talk about something I absolutely love to talk about, and that is developing friendships in the inclusive classroom. So I want to say a little bit about what is beneficial about friendships, which I think we all probably intuitively know, but let me tell you a little bit more about this, in particular, the benefits of friendships in inclusive early learning classrooms. So one is that if we call them interability friendships, they increase a child's acceptance of human differences, which will be clearly an important skill for future success. Children have the chance to not only acquire and master skills, but they'll also deepen their mastery as they share their knowledge with their friends. And this goes for children with and children without disabilities. These interability friendships in the classrooms have been found to correspond in a reduction in bullying and other negative behaviors both in the early learning setting, but also beyond. And interability friendships really help children develop empathy and compassion as they recognize and respond to the needs of others. And one well-studied fact about these interability friendships and inclusion is that children who are typically developing, as well as children with disabilities, really learn how to modify and adapt their language so that their friends can best understand them. And this ability to take someone's perspective and change your communication style really is a lifelong skill that is beneficial beyond the early learning years. And finally, the interability friendships really lead to heightened peer acceptance. And peer acceptance, especially in early learning years, has been demonstrated to be an indicator. In fact, some people say the strongest predictor of the quality of life in the adult years. So for all of these reasons, I think we would agree that early friendships are so important. So what I'm going to present are 10 tips for how to increase social interaction in inclusive early learning classrooms so that we have a really nice foundation to start building those friendship skills. So the first tip is to create what I would call stable small groups. So in early learning classrooms, in particular, say in preschool classrooms, we might have as many as 18 children. And often there's a time of the day, whether it's snack or meal time or small group time, that those children get into smaller groups. So maybe 3 groups of 6 or 3 groups of 5. And so what this strategy is to say, you know that those children will be going into small groups. Keep the same children in the same small group table for several weeks, maybe even several months. And the reason is that if you're a young child, all of these busy, bustling bodies in a classroom might be hard to get to know personally. It might be hard for me to even get to catch your name when it's only mentioned maybe at circle time. So what this does is it effectively shrinks the classroom and allows you to really only have to really get to know maybe 4 or 5 other children and get to know them a little bit more intimately. And that increases the likelihood that friendships can develop because I sit at the same table with the same group every day. We really start to build a nice community. Now, of course, you can rotate it throughout the year, but really give children a chance to get to know several children well. And that increases the likelihood that friendships will develop, that social interactions will happen, not only in small group time, but even when they're outside of small group time, they'll seek out those familiar peers to interact with. Now, the next tip I have is to provide what we call social use toys. Now, you might think, gosh, in early learning classrooms, aren't all toys social use? Well, actually, most toys are developed for one person to use them. Children use them in social situations, but here what we're trying to find are tools and toys that really almost require that 2 children use them together, because that really increases the likelihood that 2 children will use them together. And that sets the stage for us to develop some of those social interaction skills that might lead to those developing friendships. So seesaws, teeter-totters, rowboats, those things that require 2 children to sit on them to activate them. We've also included a wagon in here. A wagon's a great social use toy. 2 telephones that are connected together is a great social use toy. And beyond that, you can even think about ways that you can arrange your classroom that lend themselves to 2 children getting together, like maybe in your literacy corner, having a small couch that allows 2 children to sit together versus sitting singly in one beanbag, for example. So think about how you can increase the social use toys that are in your classroom or social spaces in your classroom that are designed to increase the likelihood that there will be social interaction and developing friendships. Now, this next strategy is what we call snack captains. And the idea here is that children gathered around for meal or snack time or small group time, there's often materials that are in the middle, materials or food, and children might independently access the food and put it on their plates, or maybe teachers do that for them. And here what we want to do is put different children around the table in charge of different things. So I might be the snack captain in charge of fish crackers one day, and maybe the next day I'm in charge of oranges. But the idea is that I might have a bowl or a plate of those treats, and you have to ask me for them in order to get them. And so this increases social interaction. So rather than me just accessing fish crackers in the middle of the table and getting them independently, I have to ask my buddy at the table for fish crackers, and then we get a back and forth social interaction. So again, really trying to build these social interactions that might lead to friendships later on. So having snack captains, or you can do the same thing at a small group activity where children are in charge of different small group activity items. Say you're making collages, one person has the glue sticks, one person has the paper, one person has the glitter, and everybody has to ask each other to get access to those items. So a really quick way to increase social interaction, so snack captains. The next thing is actually a studied, evaluated intervention called affection activities, and it's really simple. That is during circle time when you're going to sing songs or do finger plays, you embed some type of social interaction in it. So we might do ring around the rosy and hold hands. That's one that we often know. But we might think about ways that we can increase the affection or the social interaction in even songs that might not have them. So when you do hokey pokey, instead of just putting your hand in, maybe it's you and your neighbor put your hands in, right? So you put it in together. Instead of singing "If you're happy, you know it, clap your hands," maybe it's "If you're happy, you know it, give a friend a high five," or let's do an elbow bump in today's day and time. Instead of row, row, row your boat by yourself, let's row your boat with another friend so that you are rowing together or acting like you're rowing together. And then this is a great little hello song. Shake hands with a friend and say hello. Shake hands with a friend and say hello. Again, you might change that to, elbow bump your friend and say hello. But the idea is that we're going to embed some social interaction into common everyday activities. And that increased social interaction just at those small group or the circle time might boost those social interaction beyond that time as well. My next one tip is for what we call buddy days. So here you see a story about super buddies and what super buddies do. And so in this story are all the different skills that super buddies and AKA friends know what to do. They give each other compliments. They apologize if they made a mistake. They ask each other to play. They take turns. They share their resources, their toys and materials. So this is a story about what all the things that super buddies do. And then what's fun about this is they use this story to welcome in the buddy day. And buddy day is a day when every child in the preschool has a special buddy. So not every day is a buddy day. You don't want buddy burnout. But on a buddy day, you are assigned a buddy. And here the teacher might take a child that has more social skills and pair them intentionally with a friend that might really benefit by having more social skills demonstrated for them and modeled for them. So they pair the two intentionally. And the thing is that all day long, there are buddy things to do. So there might be a chance to, instead of the teacher handing children individual smocks, she hands the smocks out to two children at a time with their buddies. And one of the buddy activities is that you have to help your buddy put their paint smock on, which is a fun thing. You see that happening. There might be buddy centers. So there's special activities that happen during the day that you can only do, like this super fun magnetic Mr. Potato Head. You can only do it if you bring your buddy with you. So the teacher during special events or times, it's a buddy time that you need to do that day. And then at the end of the day, children that spent time with their buddies during all those activities might get a certificate or a certain little celebration for their buddy time together. And so that is buddy days. So not every day is a buddy day, but some days might be super special buddy days where you get a buddy. And some teachers even have a picture of your buddy so that you'll remember who your buddy is. So here we have Lulu and Kayla. Kayla might wear a picture of Lulu and Lulu might wear a picture of Kayla, and they'll remember who each other are. So that's buddy days. Kind of following along that line are just things like doing collaborative art activities or buddy art activities. So instead of every art activity being something that a child just does on their own piece of paper that they, just work on by themselves, instead we get big pieces of paper and children work together. So you can see on the right there's some fun cornstarch art with those cornstarch little stickies. And you can see that two children, Christian and Naili, worked on it together. So they built something together, they named it together, and it's displayed together. It's a display of our buddy art together. And then on the left-hand side, you see a teacher that instead of having just small group activities where children have plain pieces of paper by themselves drawing, she just would put down a big piece of butcher paper, and small group would be on the floor and children would be interacting with each other and drawing together. So again, just setting the stage for social interaction and friendships to blossom. All right, one of my next tips is actually to teach friendship skills, to think intentionally during the day. What skill are you going to teach that day or that week? What skill might be highlighted? Now, of course, there's all kinds of great published social skills curricula that you could use if you had access to those. There's also lots of resources, that many of which they'll share on Circle Time Magazine with you, that you can download and use for free. But the idea is just that you might pick a skill, like this teacher is highlighting the skill of trading. Trading is a great friendship skill. And she is going to show a picture of what it looks like, probably going to role play it with a puppet, then maybe role play it with a child and a puppet, then maybe have two children demonstrate it together. And then she's just going to have like her super teacher binoculars on all day long. And she'll really be looking out for every time children were using this super friendship skill of trading that day or that week. And then the next week, it might be another skill like giving compliments or inviting someone to play. Or helping somebody. So just thinking about what are those super friendship skills and making sure that you teach them intentionally, either with a curriculum or with resources that you can find. The next tip number 8, is something called peer-mediated instruction. And peer-mediated instruction is kind of an extension of teaching friendship skills. But here what we do is we think about the child who might have special needs or who might have some goals in trying to increase their social interactions, is that instead of the teacher just only teaching the child with a developmental delay or with special needs how to make friends, instead the teacher teaches some of the children that have more social skills or a higher level of social skills, teaches them how to include a child with special needs. So giving them some specific strategies, like how, I can tap my friend on the shoulder to get their attention, right? I can do a gentle touch on the shoulder to try and get this friend to come play with me. I can give my friend a toy that I want to share, right? That might be a way I can get them to play with me. I can actually take my friend by the hand gently and take them over to a play area to play. And I can even say, let's play together. So here are 4 different ways that we could teach a child to go interact with a child who might have special needs or who just might need some extra support in interacting in a friendship way. And the teacher can be really great at encouraging both children. And here in particular, encouraging that child that is making the effort to go include somebody who might not be as responsive right away. So the teacher needs to provide some extra encouragement. And another little thing that you can do with peer-mediated intervention is you can work in triads or threes. So you can have 2 children that are, again, maybe demonstrate some higher level social skills. And you can say, hey, the 2 of you, can you be a helper with me? Can the 2 of you, I have a challenge for you. Can you try and include and invite Paul over there in lots of interactions today, as an example? So those are peer-mediated interventions, and they are really helpful in inclusive classrooms. Tip number 9 is social play scripts. So you probably have seen these social scripts or idea boards around classrooms before. You've probably used them on your own, like here are different things you can build in the building center. And the little twist on these is that we actually embed something that I can do with a friend. So if I'm running out of ideas of what to do at the block center, I can make blocks into a square. I can give a little person to a friend, and I can say, let's go swimming. And then we can pretend that we're swimming in the pool. So it's ideas to use in different learning centers that also have ideas for including a friend in them. So those are social scripts or social play scripts that you can use. And then finally, tip number 10 is to find some really fun ways to reinforce those burgeoning friendship skills that you see happening in the classroom. So I've just put a couple of fun ideas here. One is this idea of friendship loops. So these are just like little pot holder loops you can find at craft stores. Stuff your pockets with them and go on a friendship hunt. So when you're a teacher out on the playground or during free choice time, you're just going to think about what's in your pocket, and your mission is to give these away by catching children using friendship skills. So here we see a teacher on the left who has caught this girl doing a great friendship skill, and she's giving her a friendship loop, which is kind of like a little bracelet that you can wear. And then what I've seen teachers do is have clear jars. And then when the children are coming in from outside time, they get to take off their friendship loops and stick them in a jar. And when that jar gets full, they're going to have a really fun friendship party. Kind of a similar idea on the other side of the screen there, the friendship gumball machine. I love this probably because I love gumballs, but this is a teacher that just took a regular plastic gumball machine and turned it into a friendship gumball machine. And of course the gumballs are little pom-poms or little ping pong balls, kind of fun assortment of things. And when this teacher finds a friend that is really working on social interaction, she invites that friend to pick a gumball to put into the gumball machine. And then when the gumball machine gets full, they're going to have a really fun gumball party in that classroom. So there you have it. Those are my 10 tips for increasing social interaction in an inclusive classroom to lay the groundwork, the framework, the foundation, the platform for those burgeoning friendships that we know are so important. I am so glad I got to join you, and I look forward to hearing how you're going to use these in your own classroom. Bye, Dawn. Bye, Kristen. Bye, Circle Time.
So we're going to hear next from Ariane Govreau from the University of Washington, and she's going to talk to us about something called Snack Talk.
Ooh,
let's watch.
So interested.
Yeah.
Yeah, my name's Ariane Govreau. I'm the field director and an instructor in the College of Education here at the University of Washington. So Snack Talks are a visual conversation board, and I've got two right here. They're designed to help kids have conversations with one another, and kind of the beauty of a snack talk is that you don't have to be able to talk to use one. You can point to something or gesture at something to make a comment or to ask a question. But ultimately, these are designed to help kids have conversations with one another during mealtimes. I really see Snack Talk as increasing opportunities for all kids to be included in a number of ways. We know that just putting neurodiverse kids and neurotypical kids into the same classroom is not enough to create an inclusive environment, right? Kids with different communication styles, with different languages, can use them to kind of talk and point and converse about a shared topic. We have done this. We've been able to kind of test Snack Talks in a range of early learning programs for programs that serve all children that have a diagnosis of autism or autistic, who might be using pictures to communicate, to inclusive preschool classrooms where there's a range of strengths and needs and communication styles and languages. And we've seen differential effects across all of these types of kids, which is really exciting. It's exciting seeing a class-wide intervention, something that a teacher can implement to support all the kids in the class, benefiting individual kids. I got started with Snack Talk. I was running a program serving preschoolers with autism and had a huge range of strengths and needs in my class. And snack time tended to be a really quiet time, even for children in my class that had incredibly large vocabularies. They weren't as interested in having conversations with other kids, and Snack Talks were really an easy way to promote that child-to-child communication for kids that otherwise had a lot of language but had a harder time initiating a conversation with another child. So you really have to start by figuring out, what are these kids going to want to have a conversation on? And then, it's not quite enough to just have your visuals ready to go. I think what usually happens, if these just kind of get set down on a snack table, is that kids might pick them up and they might look at them as they would look at a book or any sort of other visual material. So it's really important that as teachers we kind of model and use the Snack Talk the way we would want kids to use them. They can be fancy, but they certainly don't have to be. There's, a number of different ways that we could make a Snack Talk card. Now that, Google Images is so easy for us to access, I see a lot of teachers using the internet, just downloading images from the internet related to what their kids might want to talk about. But we've been doing kind of trainings and make and takes at conferences on Snack Talks for a number of years before Google Images was an option. And we've had teachers cut images out of school supply catalogs. You get so many of those when you're a teacher, and we would just bring them to these make and takes, and teachers would cut out different things that their kids would be interested in talking about. The same goes for like grocery store circulars. A lot of teachers have used those before, and those are readily available, free in the community. You really have to look at your learners, right? What are kids going to want to be? What are kids going to want to talk about? And many of our kids are going to be very excited to talk about the thematic unit, and some of our other kids might be less passionate about that. And then we really are going to want to develop some kind of targeted snack talks related to their individual child preferences. So, it's a fun intervention in that you can let your children guide you and show you what they want to talk about and what they are most interested in.
Now it's time for Let's Modify It. This is where we give you some ideas for small changes that can have a big impact on children's access and participation. We're going to have 3 examples here, and these are all peer supports. In this first one, we're going to see a short clip of how teachers discuss how to get peers interacting with their friend Ethan.
So I see that Ethan is playing with the trains. I'm wondering, or I'm thinking, how could we get him, we had been talking about how we were going to get peers interacting with him at least a couple times throughout the day. Who has bubbles? You can say it. Let's sing a song. Oh, Excel has bubbles. Ooh, Excel's blowing bubbles for Ethan.
So it always comes back to planning.
Doesn't
so
it?
You can even see in the video the teacher's planning right there. Sometimes you plan on the spot.
Yeah.
And you think, okay, I'm noticing that Ethan is playing alone. What can we do right now to sort of get him engaged with other kids? So the idea was to have a child come up to him with bubbles. He really likes bubbles. And this really got his attention and got him to want to engage with kids. And from then on, there was just some great walking together around the playground, and that was great. That was all it took, right?
Right. This next clip highlights children helping during free choice time.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Show Alex 1, 2, 3.
So what I love about this is that these peers helped independently.
I love this clip
No
so
adult
much.
had to come in there and do
Nope,
it.
nope.
They knew what to do right away. They helped the little girl off the trampoline. They clearly are in an environment where helping each other and looking out for each other is something that's been cultivated, and they know how to do that.
Absolutely.
And how beautiful that that just happens independently.
Right, love that. All right, in this next clip, we're going to see a teacher who is highlighting the skills of a child during snack time.
Did you hear what Justin was telling you? Justin was, well, show Caleb. Yes, he was telling you that you can put your fork on your pancake if you want to cut it. Yeah, but he was talking about cutting it, Izzy. And then look at him. He's using his knife, and he's going back and forth to cut it. But can you show Caleb? That'll be nice.
Let's do it. Oh, I did.
And see, yep, he's trying it. See, look at Caleb. He's going to try it. Very good.
So what a great example of peer modeling.
Love this clip too.
Isn't that great?
So great.
All the kids can benefit from what the child is modeling, and the teacher's doing a really good job of narrating what's happening. So even if everyone can't see it, they can hear the teacher explain what's happening, and everybody's well supported in this.
I know, it's a great clip. Okay, so now it is time for Circle Time Magic.
Yay!
Circle Time Magic, right? These are quick tips that can help your circle times go better, right? So we're going to hear from Teacher Taylor during this Circle Time Magic. And Teacher Taylor is a preschool teacher who has 16 children in her classroom, 10 children without disabilities, 6 children have disabilities. And she is going to talk about a strategy that she used in her circle time to really level the playing field for children for how they communicate to each other. All right, let's watch.
And what they'd been working on at home was doing a chest pat for yes, and then a leg pat for no, so hitting her thigh for no. And we were really working on the no because prior to that nonverbal way, she was doing some head hitting. And so that was what we were really focusing on and providing a lot of modeling and a lot of opportunities to practice it. What we noticed as we kept going with our teaching of this skill is that a lot of the time it was really arbitrary. It was, asking a question that we knew she was going to say yes to, like, do you want more goldfish? It was always a yes. Or we'd try and do some sabotaging of, do you want this version of this song, knowing that that's not the one she would want. And she would say no. But it didn't ever feel like it was really naturally teaching the skill in, the ways that she would be using it with peers or teachers in the future. So we started to incorporate it more into play. And one way we did that was with large group activity on an iPad where we write the Mo Willems story, the pigeon story. And so the students all get a chance to come up and pick a different part of the story, and we build it together, and then it reads it back to you. And the most entertaining part of this for preschoolers is getting to shout no very loudly every 30 seconds. And so when we started doing this, it took 2 or 3 times for me to realize that this would be a great opportunity to incorporate saying no non-verbally. And it also was a really great benefit for us because when you have 16 students all yelling no, it gets really loud and you can't hear the next part of the story. So we shifted the way of saying no for the whole group to patting our legs. And so some students still were saying it verbally, some were saying it with sign language, some were patting their legs, but universally, everyone was able to access saying no to the story. And it really normalized that for all of them. And then from that experience, the amount of times a day where her peers were recognizing her saying no just exploded. So they would notice if we were at the snack table and a peer said, would you like a muffin? And hold it out, and she would say no. She goes, oh, she said no, and pass it over. And so the ability to teach that skill in such a normalized large group setting, and it didn't feel like it was direct instruction. We never had to say, she says it like this, you say it like this person says it like this. Everyone just got to experiment and do it as they wanted to. Was a really great way to kind of introduce that to all of her peers.
Taylor has such good effective strategies. It just seemed like this could naturally occur. It's something that you can easily switch up.
Yeah.
And it's not going to take a whole lot to just maybe change whether or not you're doing a high five or you're doing a handshake.
Right. Kids can communicate in multiple ways, and it doesn't always have to be a child learning how to communicate like a child without disabilities. It can be the children learning to communicate like a child does with their hands or with a picture. So I love that. I love that she does that.
Yeah, she's doing such a great job.
Yeah, she is.
So I am super excited about this next segment because we've seen Rocio already, but she was even more generous with her time and had some book recommendations for us. So let's check these out.
I have some books that I read that if you call my favorite books, this one is one of those, However You Are. And I always read it in Spanish to Sol and Daniel. And I just love this book because it embraces the ethnicity and backgrounds of children and around the world. And it's just beautiful because it's like, well, we can look different from the outside and everything, but from the inside, the love is the love, the pain is the pain, the blood is the same. The heart is like you. So I think it's a good book that can be related to inclusion and not just in special needs or but also in culture and colors and backgrounds. I love this book. And Wonder, of course, I know that there is a movie about it, and I saw it, and very nice movie. But I found this one also in Spanish, so Wonder, Todos Somos Únicos, and I read it to both of them too. And what I love about this book is the part that says when the boy feels bad about how people are looking at him, and he sensed that and feels sad, he goes out in a space, and it's like wow, when he stands here and he's like, well, the world is this, the planet Earth, and I know that people are there, and it's like millions of people, and everybody is different. So I think that's another thing, like to have the ability to, I think when we are not treating each other well because how we look different, or we're different, or you have a different religion or whatever, even different language, I think it's because we are so into here. But if you have some time and imagine yourself to be out there and see the world, is like, who are you? Like, and what matters if you speak other language or have different colors, or your rhythm is different than the other person, or whatever. It doesn't matter. So I think I love this because it helps you to, as an adult, if you're reading it, it helps you to be like, wow, really, it's true. Like, why are we making a big deal of it? And for children, of course, it's good to see that, yeah, there are differences, but it's okay. So Wonder in Spanish, and well, Frederick, I think it's a classic here in United States. But what I like about this book is that everybody's working, and Frederick seems that he's not working, but he's just, the poet, or the, how would you say, el pensador, el poético, el filósofo, the philosopher. And it seems that he's not doing anything. And yeah, to me, like, yeah, you are not doing anything. Well, and everybody's working, and at the end, it's like they finish the food, the mouses. Los ratones terminaron su comida. But finally, it's like, well, Frederick, what do you have? And like, well, here, just close your eyes. I have, the light that I absorb from the sun, or something like that. Ahora les mando los rayos del sol que sientan su resplandor dorado. So it seems that he's not doing anything, but he's doing something. And when the time comes, here he is to share what he has. So it makes me think about inclusion, like, well, everybody has something, and maybe it's not obvious for other people, but everybody is offering something. No matter how insignificant you see it or how big it is, it doesn't matter. Everybody is contributing to the all. So I just like this one for that. And A Rainbow of Friends, I think this is more specific about the ability, my daughter or somebody ripped this, but I just like this one because it talks about the abilities or skills that kids have. Like a kid can be more artistic, or another kid can be more, competitive. Or some kids have the challenge of walking, but that doesn't mean that they cannot play. And everybody being recognized for their skills add richness to your friendship. So that's why I like this one. And finally, Una niña, un tambor, un sueño. This is a book that a friend gave it to Sol, and it's about a girl that, because she's a girl, she's not allowed to play drums, just boys. So finally, she shows that she really wants to play from her heart, and at the end, she plays drums. But it took persistency. It took persistency for her, and not to let go of her dream. And she did it, but she needed to stick with it. And for that to happen, a caregiver needed to be supporting her at the end. So it's her dad who said, yes, you can play drums. I don't know, it talks about, maybe it's really more to gender, as I said before, but still it shows that you have something to offer. And sometimes the out there is not easy for you to show that. But if you have persistency, if you persist, and if from a lot of people won't believe in you at the end, that's good enough for you to mark your way. Yeah. So, and there are many other books that are great, but these are my favorite ones.
So I love hearing about all these books that she reads with her family,
Right.
and I love to hear about why she loves each book, right? Each one is really meaningful to them, and I cannot wait to check those books out.
Yeah, I really appreciate the parent perspective on that.
I love that.
It is time for It's All About You, where we hear some quick tips to help you take care of yourself. Thanks for being here, Gail.
I am so happy to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
Always.
Well, I brought you something.
Okay.
So I like to bring you something every time. So here are friendship bracelets
Oh
for
my
both of you.
gosh.
So you can pick whichever color you want to wear.
Dawn, you choose.
I can't choose, friend. You choose.
Oh, you know, I guess I don't know. We'll just put him here. Let's
All right,
put him
there.
there.
All right,
Share
those
it.
are your
Share it.
friendship bracelets. But let me say a little bit about that. I know we've been talking a lot about friendship on this episode, friendship and membership. Those friendships are so important for young children, but they're also incredibly important for us as adults, having a sense of social support. And so today's tip is to really kind of look at and see if you've got all the social support that you need and if it's feeling effective and working for you. So let's talk a little bit about some of the benefits of having great social support. So protects you from feeling isolated, so having some connectedness and some belonging, senses of belonging. It increases life satisfaction, so people that have meaningful friendships and social support report feeling more satisfied with their life. It actually provides better recovery from illnesses, from physical illnesses. So there was a fascinating study done where they had married couples, and they actually inflicted small little, don't do this at home, but they inflicted small little kind of scratches, on, it's all medically controlled, onto their arm, and then had a device that could measure the healing, how rapidly the cuts were healing. And they divided these married couples into two, so those that were having some more hostility in their relationships and those that were having a more supportive relationship. The people that had the more supportive relationship healed faster, significantly faster. So their conclusions were about the importance of social support that not only helps our mental health and well-being, but actually helps our physical health as well, so having the social supports. So people like to think about social supports in 3 different ways, and so I just kind of think that this is a good way to kind of think about, do I have social support in these 3 areas? So one is around emotional support, right? So do you have that caring, loving connection where somebody cares unconditionally about you, you feel the same way about them? That's just that really good emotional support that we want to have. So do we have that in our lives? Is it positive? Another social area of social support is what we would call instrumental support, and that is, do we have somebody that could help us out if we needed them to, right? So this could just be the relationships you have with your neighbors, right? Can they bring the paper in for you when you're gone? Can they, help water your lawn when you're gone? Or so just like, and you do the same for them. Is there somebody that could pick up your child at school if you couldn't get there, right? So just making sure that you have that instrumental support. Who is that? Might not be the same person as the person that does emotional support, right? You might have somebody that loves you unconditionally, but you cannot count on them to go and pick your child up after school, right? Maybe they don't even live here. So, so thinking about that. And then the last type of support is informational support. So do you have somebody that can give you good advice, that can listen to you and give you some good advice on what you need to know? So again, the person that gives you great, I have a friend that I love, I adore, great emotional support. Gives me such lousy advice, right? Not somebody I want to go to on certain areas that I need some information on. So in thinking about as teachers, that might be a teacher that we go to that helps us, gives us some good information about how to solve a problem we're having in the classroom, or how to address a parent in a certain way or something like that. So thinking about, do you have supports in those three areas? And just, if you don't, let's just tune it up, right? And the other thing to think about is just making sure that in those three areas that it's a healthy and positive relationship too, right? So you might have people in those areas, but is it always positive support, right? So you there's some red flags sometimes we see. So somebody that tries to outstress you is, maybe not the best social support for you. Anybody that makes you feel bad is that's not a positive social support for you. So just making sure, thinking, okay, do I have someone in those areas? Is it positive? And if not, it is never too late to form a new relationship, to find a friend, right? So thinking about, all right, I don't really have enough kind of support in one of those areas. I'm going to, reach out and meet a new neighbor and exchange numbers so that I feel like I've got that support in place. Or I'm going to join a book club and meet somebody that can be a good informational support for me. So anyways, so it's just about getting our friendship bracelets on. So
You need one.
Well, I have one. Just with you all here and giving you those friendship bracelets, I feel like I'm wearing one too.
Good.
So.
Okay. Good.
But that was very friendly, very emotionally supportive.
It was.
Thank you, Gail.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you. So we have come to the end of our time today, and we hope that you have learned about lots of good strategies. And again, what is the word for the day? Planning. Intentional planning. So thank you so much for joining our Circle Time.
Bye.